Yeah, baby.
Welcome to Echoes of Beloved, where we dive deep into Toni Morrison's Beloved and explore the powerful themes that make this novel a masterpiece. Today, I'm joined by Amara, Owen, and Gaucin as we dissect Morrison's exploration of the past, love, resilience, social justice, self-acceptance, historical trauma, and the legacy of slavery. Beloved isn't just a ghost story. It's an argument about history's grip on the present, the cost of freedom, and the power of love and self-acceptance. Let's get into it.
Toni Morrison's Beloved is a novel deeply rooted in the idea that the past shapes both the present and the future. Through the experiences of these characters, particularly Sethi, Denver, and Paul D., and Beloved, the novel demonstrates how historical trauma, memory, and unresolved pain continues to influence individuals and communities across time.
Exactly. And trauma isn't just personal. Beloved shows the horrors of slavery don't just vanish when freedom is granted. Paul D., for example, carries his trauma physically and emotionally, symbolized by the metaphorical tobacco tin where he stores his painful memories. Morrison describes his heart as a rusted shut, showing how deeply his suffering is internalized. Sethi's overwhelming need to protect Denver stems from her past trauma, but also isolates her and limits Denver's future. Their past experiences dictate how they interact with the world, illustrating the long-lasting effects of slavery.
That's a great point, and it leads to another question. What does it take to truly be free when haunted by the past? One of the clearest examples of the past influence on the present is the character of Beloved herself. She embodies the physical and emotional weight of Sethi's past, returning as a ghost and later as a flesh and blood presence. Beloved represents the trauma of slavery and Sethi's own guilt over killing her daughter to prevent her from being taken back into bondage. Her return disrupts Sethi's life and nearly consumes her, showing how unresolved trauma refuses to stay buried. Ignoring the past only gives it more power into the present.
While the past can be suffocating, Beloved also suggests that healing and change are possible. Denver, unlike Sethi, manages to step into the future by leaving the house and seeking help from the community. She symbolizes a new generation that acknowledges the past but refuses to be trapped by it. Her growth represents hope and the possibility of breaking free from historical trauma, which represents that the past is never truly gone.
Let's talk about resilience. Toni Morrison's Beloved explores resilience in the face of trauma through its characters' struggles with slavery, loss, and haunting memories. Despite the deep pain they endure, they demonstrate an ability to survive, adapt, and in some cases, heal. Their resilience takes different forms through memory, community, and self-reclamation.
Sethi's resilience is most evident in her determination to protect her children, even in the most extreme circumstances. Her escape from Sweet Home while pregnant, driven by the need to give her daughter freedom, exemplifies her physical and emotional strength. Even when haunted by guilt over Beloved's death, she continues to care for Denver, showing how love fuels endurance. While Sethi is deeply scarred, her will to survive and protect demonstrates the resilience of enslaved mothers who sought to claim their children's futures despite oppressive conditions. While Sethi is most prominent example of resilience, Denver is just as important.
That's true. Denver initially sheltered a fearful due to the haunting of 124, ultimately embodies the strongest example of resilience. She overcomes isolation, seeks help from the Black community, and steps into a future of possibility. Her willingness to break free from the past and forge her own path demonstrates that resilience is not just about survival, but about growth and transformation.
And then there's Baby Shooks. She transforms her suffering into something powerful, her sermons, her community building. Even after losing her faith, her impact remains. Her call to love your hands, love them, is an act of resistance. Her resilience isn't just about survival, it's about empowerment.
But is resilience enough? Morrison doesn't romanticize survival. She asks what survival costs. Sethi survives, but at what price? While trauma leaves deep scars, Morrison suggests that survival, love, and communal care offer pathways to healing. Through Sethi's endurance, Paul D's emotional reckoning, and Denver's transformation, this novel demonstrates that resilience is not just about enduring pain, but finding ways to reclaim life beyond suffering. The novel forces us to reckon with the idea that survival is not the same as healing. And that raises the question, Can one ever fully heal from historical trauma, or does it linger across generations?
Beloved portrays love as both a source of salvation and destruction. Love is powerful. It sustains characters through unimaginable suffering, but it can also lead to devastating consequences. Sethi's love for Beloved is all-consuming, so much so that she loses herself. Paul D's struggle with emotional connection and the obsessive love embodied by Beloved illustrate the double-edged nature of love in the novel. Morrison presents love as radical, dangerous, and sometimes destructive.
And yet, love is also redemptive. Paul D's final words, "You're the best thing, Setha," reminds us that love and self-acceptance are crucial. Love isn't just about others, it's about reclaiming yourself after trauma. Denver, too, learns to love herself by stepping out of Setha's shadow. Self-love is an act of survival and defiance against oppression.
That brings up the theme of self-acceptance. Sethi struggles with guilt, but her journey is about learning to forgive herself. Morrison asks, can we move forward if we don't make peace with our past? On the other hand, love offers a path to healing and redemption. Throughout the novel, Sethi's relationships with others, particularly Paul D and Denver, begin to show that love can also be a force of healing. Paul D's love for Sethi helps her confront and accept the painful truths of her past, encouraging her to let go of the guilt that has plagued her for years. Similarly, Denver's love for her mother evolves throughout the novel, moving from dependence to a more independent form of care and connection, which allows both women to grow. In these ways, love can be redemptive, giving the characters a sense of purpose and strength to rebuild their lives after the destruction caused by slavery.
And let's not forget how Beloved portrays love as a force shaped by trauma. Sethi's love is not just maternal, but also shaped by the horrors of slavery. Love, it's what gives characters the strength to endure, but also has the power to consume and destroy. Beloved asks whether love in a world shaped by trauma can ever be safe, or whether its very intensity can make it dangerous. Ultimately, the novel suggests that love must be balanced with self-preservation, as seen in Denver's ability to move forward while still loving her mother. Sethi's decision to kill Beloved was in her mind an act of love, one that reveals how slavery warped even the purest human emotions. How does oppression redefine what love means? And that ties into social justice. Beloved isn't just a personal story. It's about how powerful explanation of social justice and historical reckoning, particularly regarding slavery's lasting impact on individuals and communities. The novel forces readers to confront the brutal realities of America's past, challenging the tendency to forget or ignore historical injustices. Morrison forces us to confront that through the characters' experiences with slavery, trauma, and memory. Morrison argues that true justice requires both acknowledgement of the past and collective healing. The fact that the town must collectively forget Beloved in order to move on raises questions about how the ethics of historical erasure. How does one nation heal if it refuses to acknowledge its own crimes?
And that history is relevant today. Morrison is saying that you can't just ignore the past and accept it to go away. We see this in Beloved's ghostly presence. She's literally a manifestation of the past refusing to be silenced. Not a house in the country ain't packed to its rafters with some dead N-words grief. Morrison writes, reinforcing the weight of historical trauma. The ghosts of history will haunt us unless we confront them.
Beloved refuses to sanitize or downplays the atrocities of slavery. Instead, it forces both its characters and its readers to reckon with its painful history. We see this in Setha's trauma. Setha's decision to kill her daughter rather than allow her to be enslaved highlights the absolute horror of slavery. It presents a moral dilemma that challenges readers. Was Setha wrong, or was the institution of slavery so inhumane that such an act became a rational response? By forcing readers to grapple with this, Morrison ensures that slavery's true brutality is not forgotten. We also see this with Paul D's dehumanization. Paul D experiences, such as being treated like livestock, forced into a chain gang, and learning to suppress his emotions, illustrate how slavery sought to strip people of their humanity. His journey of reclaiming his identity is part of the novel's larger theme of reckoning with history.
Another key theme is the legacy of slavery and generational trauma. The novel suggests that slavery didn't just end, it left scars that persist across generations. Through Seti, Denver, Paul D., and Beloved, Morrison demonstrates how trauma does not simply disappear, it lingers, affecting identity, relationships, and the ability to move forward. How do the descendants of enslaved people carry that history with them?
Denver is a great example of this. She didn't experience slavery firsthand, but she still suffers from its aftermath. Because of Setha's past, Denver grows up in near total isolation, trapped in a home haunted by trauma. She inherits her mother's suffering indirectly, demonstrating how the effects of slavery extend beyond those who directly experience it.
And we see this in Paul D. too. His experiences at Sweet Home and in prison shaped the way he moves through the world. He doesn't trust love, he doesn't believe in true freedom, and struggles to let himself feel. Paul D. survives slavery by locking his painful memories away in his metaphorical tobacco tin heart. He avoids deep emotional connections, believing love is dangerous because everything he once loved, his brothers, the other Sweet Home men, was taken from him. His struggle to reclaim his emotions shows how slavery teaches its victims to suppress vulnerability as a survival mechanism. The emotional and psychological wounds of slavery don't just disappear with legal emancipation.
Beloved portrays slavery's legacy as an enduring wound that shapes identity, relationships, and future generations. Through Sethi's haunting guilt, Paul D.'s emotional detachment, Beloved's embodiment of the past, and Denver's cautious steps towards the future, Morrison demonstrates how generational trauma lingers long after physical chains are removed. However, the novel also suggests that healing is possible through remembrance, community, and the courage to step forward.
So to summarize, Beloved is about the past shaping the present, resilience in the face of trauma, love as both salvation and danger, justice, self-acceptance, historical trauma, and the legacy of slavery. Morrison doesn't give us easy answers, but she forces us to ask the right questions. The novel demonstrates that historical trauma is inescapable, as seen through Sethi's haunting guilt, Paul D.'s emotional repression, and Beloved's return as a physical embodiment of the past. Slavery's horrors do not simply disappear once freedom is granted. Instead, they leave psychological scars that influence identity, relationships, and entire communities. Through these characters, Morrison underscores that history must be acknowledged rather than ignored to prevent it from consuming future generations.
The novel also examines resilience in the face of trauma, showing how love can be both a force of salvation and destruction. Setha's love for her children drives her to escape Sweet Home and later make the agonizing decision to kill Beloved rather than to allow her to be enslaved. Paul D. and Denver also demonstrate different kinds of resilience. Paul D. by gradually reclaiming his emotions, and Denver by breaking free from isolation to build a future beyond 124. However, Morrison warns that love, when consumed by trauma, can become suffocating, as seen in Beloved's parasitic hold on Setha. The novel suggests that resilience requires not just survival, but the ability to move forward while maintaining self-worth.
Beyond personal struggles, Beloved serves as a border call for social justice and historical reckoning. Morrison confronts readers with the brutal realities of slavery, forcing an honest engagement with the past. The Ghost of Beloved is a reminder that history does not simply fade away. It must be confronted and reckoned with to prevent its repetition. The Black community in the novel plays a crucial role in healing, showing that justice and reconciliation require collective effort rather than individual suffering. Morrison's dedication to the 60 million and more emphasizes the novel's purpose as a memorial to those whose pain was historically erased.
Ultimately, Beloved illustrates how the legacy of slavery extends across generations, shaping those who experience it firsthand and those who inherit its trauma. Denver's journey offers hope, suggesting that while history leaves deep wounds, healing is possible through community, self-discovery, and the willingness to confront the past. Morrison's novel demands that we remember and acknowledge the suffering inflicted by slavery, recognizing that true justice can only be achieved through historical reckoning. By bending personal pain with collective memory, Beloved serves as both a powerful literary masterpiece and an urgent reminder that history's ghosts must be faced before the future can truly begin.
Morrison forces us to reckon with these questions, and that's why Beloved remains so relevant. Keep these conversations going because history and literature demands it. Thank you for listening, and if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with fellow literature lovers. Stay tuned for our next episode where we'll continue exploring the impact of great storytelling. Until then, keep reading, keep questioning, and keep the conversation going.
What?